Everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And the first thing is I just want to share some exciting news. As many of you know, we do intervention programs at employer sites to help employers lower health insurance costs while we improve the health of their employees. And today, in Benefits Magazine, which is the most prestigious and most widely distributed journal in the benefits business, featured a cover story on our intervention program in Dublin. So I'll be talking about the results a little bit over time, but here's the cover of the magazine. We're very excited because now thousands and thousands of companies are going to find out about the things that we're doing here at the Wellness Forum to help companies save money. So that's all cool. And then one other thing I'll mention is Valentine's Day is coming up. If you're looking for the perfect gift, Dell makes the most incredible chocolate biscotti. I was in yoga yesterday talking about the chocolate biscotti, and one guy spoke up and he said, yeah, that chocolate biscotti, it's like drugs for my wife. She can't get enough of those biscottis. So he said, when can I get some? Really get points for giving the chocolate biscotti. And we'll ship them anywhere in the world. It's only $18 for a dozen, and we'll ship them any place. They come in a beautiful gift box. So anyhow, something to think about in terms of gifts for the next holiday. Okay, I have two things to talk about today, and the first one is an article that I saw in the editorial of our editorial section of our newspaper recently. Was written by Nicholas Kristof. He's a columnist for the New York Times and a good journalist, but in this editorial he says that chemicals might be the cause of our obesity problem. Well, first of all, I'm sure this guy's well-meaning, but he doesn't have any training in nutrition or health or science that I know about, and that's a limiting factor, but it doesn't stop him from reporting a study with mice who gained weight after exposure to what's called an endocrine disruptor. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that are found in products like plastics and cans and furniture and jet fuel. They're everywhere. It's almost impossible to avoid them. And Kristof actually says in the article, this is a direct quote, "Our lives are threatened less by the Taliban in Afghanistan than by unregulated contaminants at home." Kind of a stretch in my opinion. He suggests that the government should get involved right away and take action since obesity is such a national health problem. Now, I agree that obesity is a national health problem, but this is a horribly misguided and distracting article. First, studies have shown that animal studies have limited relevance to what happens with human health. And second, while we all agree that we should be better caretakers of our planet, the evidence is really quite scant that chemicals are the cause of our weight and health problems. People are thinner and healthier in much more contaminated parts of the world. Now, I'm so much looking forward to, in a very short period of time, Dr. Colin Campbell will have his new book out called Whole, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition, where he actually delves into this topic in detail. And somebody asked me, by the way, if this book was going to be easy for the layperson to read. I can assure you it really is written so that everybody can understand what he's saying. Now, it isn't the chemicals in our environment that are making us fat, it's the food. According to a recent report that came from the Center for Science and the Public Interest, the menus at major restaurant chains are still filled with calorie and fat-dense choices. While most restaurants are also featuring better options, people often don't know how unhealthy some of the standard fare is and that they should order something different. And the people who don't know better aren't ignorant, uneducated people. I watch my own very successful, educated family members make these choices when we dine out together. For example, the Cheesecake Factory's Bistro Shrimp Pasta dish has 3,120 calories and 89 grams of saturated fat. Now, shrimp and pasta sound healthy to most people. Cheesecake Factory also offers a crispy chicken costoletta dish that consists of sautéed chicken with mashed potatoes and asparagus. Now, a lot of people say to themselves, well, it's sautéed, not fried, so that must be okay. It has 2,610 calories and 89 grams of saturated fat. Johnny Rockets has a restaurant at the Columbus Airport, one of the places I seem to spend a lot of my time these days. And I watch people go in there and buy milkshakes and cheeseburgers. Well, the Big Apple shake has 1,140 calories with 37 grams of saturated fat. And the Bacon Cheddar Double has 1,770 calories and 50 grams of saturated fat. So here's the bottom line. If we could magically eliminate all of the endocrine disruptors from the planet instantaneously, the population would still be gaining weight as long as people eat foods like these. It's the food, not the chemicals, that are making us fat. Now, it's easier to blame chemicals. It sometimes keeps people from having to look at themselves and to really do something about their habits, but these myths and misunderstandings are definitely standing in the way of improving public health. I'm sure many people read that editorial and said, oh, That's why everybody's gaining weight. Certainly not the milkshake and cheeseburger I had with bacon on it yesterday. It must be my exposure to chemicals in cans. All right, so moving on to another topic. I get emails all the time from people that are saying, I'm going to go in for a routine checkup with my doctor. What do you think I ought to do? What should I ask him about or her? And the first thing I tell people is you should cancel the appointment because it's worthless, and I'm not the only person who thinks so. We've all been brainwashed to think that we need to have some type of regular contact with a doctor just to get checked out and to be told we're okay, but there's not very much preventive stuff going on in a doctor's office. Rarely are diet, lifestyle, or anything that could actually have a preventive effect discussed. And the doctor's office is where all the useless and dangerous tests are performed. Now, in the last several years, I'm not the Lone Ranger here. Lots of organizations have come out against routine exams, and research supports these recommendations, including a recent research study by the Cochrane Collaboration. Now, you guys know I love Cochrane, the most independent medical research organization in the world. And they reviewed 14 randomized controlled trials which were conducted between 1963 and 1999 to evaluate the effect of routine annual checkups on both morbidity and mortality. Now, the definition of a checkup was a visit dedicated solely to preventive counseling and screening tests. So people who were going to doctor's appointments for treatment or management of disease, all of those were excluded. 182,000 patients were included, and the outcomes measured were morbidity, new diagnoses, hospitalizations, disability, worry, self-reported health, referrals to specialists, and additional doctor's visits. So here's what happened. The routine exams had no effect on mortality, even when figuring in lifestyle counseling, the length of the appointment, and diagnostic testing. While there was an increase in the number of new diagnoses of disease like hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and diabetes, there was no difference in the death rate from these particular diseases. In other words, a person who's diagnosed with high cholesterol or high blood pressure through a routine exam is just as likely to die of heart disease as a person who stays away from doctors. Now, that says a lot about the efficacy of medical care. There was also no reduction in the risk of all-cause mortality as a result of spending time with doctors. The conclusion is fairly escapable. You're better off staying away from doctors unless there's something clearly wrong. And believe me, if I had something bothering me, if I had a headache that wouldn't go away or a pain that was persistent, I'd go see one too. But I'm not taking this healthy body into a doctor's office to see if they can find something wrong with me. Now, the authors state that Americans are spending $322 million a year just on lab tests that result from the routine checkups, and this doesn't include additional tests as a result of false positives or the cost of overtreatment that results from these tests. Of course, the doctor's visit isn't free either. In conclusion, the authors state that since no value has been shown for routine medical exams, quote, the burden of proof should be to demonstrate that current screening tests are more effective than past screenings. Changing beliefs about the value of general health checks, beliefs that have withstood the decades of contrary evidence, will continue to be challenging. New initiatives should eventually shift patients and physicians away from the non-evidence-based yet firmly entrenched practice of the general health checkup. In other words, what they're saying is, boy, is it hard to get people to change their mind about stuff once they've made up their mind, but we really have to start looking at evidence when making decisions. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, that's all for now. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. Have a great day, and I'll be back to you on Thursday.